From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Well, yesterday was my first day back with you for a number of weeks, and my inner timing was off. So I went way over my time. I went quite a bit over my time. So I'd like to finish those thoughts. Go ahead and play them for you. This is what was cut out of yesterday's show. We spent some time here talking about the various red state legislatures and what they're up to. So let's just finish those thoughts now, and then I'll talk to you on the other side. The Republican Party, look what's happening in the red states. The voter suppression, all those bills. And that's only the beginning. In red state after red state, Republican legislators have gone mad. Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, Arizona, Iowa, Montana, more. Passing legislation allowing gun owners to carry their weapons without a permit. These and other states with a barrage of abortion bans. This ridiculous heartbeat law, and please look up the science on that if you have any doubt at all. It's not a heartbeat. It's this little pulse that all organisms have, basically, at that stage. It's not a human heartbeat. It's just the pulse of a blob of cells. All these red states, nearly all of them are going after transgender people. Just pure bigotry, anti-science. 2021 has officially surpassed 2015 as the worst year for anti-LGBTQ legislation in recent history. That's according to the Human Rights Campaign. Texas state Democrats had to walk out, deny the state legislature, a quorum in order to stop their outrageous voter suppression laws. Republican state legislators are making protests illegal. I mean, we're talking Kim Jong-un kind of stuff here. We're talking CCP in Hong Kong kind of laws. They are just off the deep end. Openly racist, openly white supremacist laws about education, and all of these scare tactics about critical race theory, teaching American history as it actually happened. Red states are legislating how cities can control their own police departments, so they're completely flying in the face of what used to be a conservative tenet, that is local control. They're stealing local control from cities and counties regarding how they deal with their police and especially how they deal with their elections. Maybe at the top of this heinous list is the fact that red state legislators are taking control of elections. They can basically throw out the votes of their state citizens and choose the candidate they favor. They're not legitimate. They need to be roundly and completely ignored and dismissed. And it has to start right from the top. President Joe, Speaker Nancy, Leader Chuck, all Democrats in the House and Senate, forget any notion of bipartisanship. You can't deal with an illegitimate party. And there are not two Republican parties. There was one Republican Party, and they are what they've always been. Don't tell me there are two Republican parties. There are not. There is one arch-conservative right-wing movement, and they've been in lockstep for decades and decades. The fact that anybody thinks they can be talked with, you can have negotiations, that there can be any bipartisanship with this group. If you still think that, I feel sorry for you. McConnell says right out loud, Republicans' only priority is to block the Biden administration. A few short years after they said their number one priority, their only priority, was to make Barack Obama a one-term president. It's the same rhetoric from the same crowd. Liz Cheney and her dad paved the way for the big lie with all of their big lies. I mean, my God, Look at the whole Iraq war and that whole era. Nothing but lies, nothing and no bigger lies than the ones Cheney and Rumsfeld and the whole gang were pushing. Even somebody like Colin Powell, who people love to hold up as this sort of centrist, good, honest guy. He was the one who held up that bogus little vial at the UN. He sold the big lie because he had the most credibility. Let's get Colin up there. He can do it. People like him. The biggest lie of all, trickle-down economics. It's been proven time and time again that it's the big lie. And still, the right-wing radicals cling to it. And again, I'm including in those right-wing radicals the entire Republican Party. If you have an R next to your name, you are illegitimate. Weapons of mass destruction. Saddam's link to Al-Qaeda. Torture really isn't torture. Trickle-down economics. All big lies. All big lies. Everything regarding COVID from the Orange Menace. Everything regarding immigrants and all the evil they do and the people they kill and the jobs they steal. All of them lies, lies, lies. Denying the Mueller report. Again, how many generations now clinging to trickle-down economics and that lie? And then, of course, the 2020 election being stolen. And now he just spoke again this weekend to the North Carolina Republicans and repeated all of these lies. Branding Democrats, this one just makes me laugh, branding capital D Democrats as radical socialists, things they've been doing since Truman. All Republicans go along with this entire agenda, with all of these big lies. And then a handful of them, you can count them on one hand. Romney, Cheney, Kinzinger, Kasich. They draw the line, well, you know, if you're going to kill the vice president and you're going to storm the Capitol, and if you're going to beat and murder the Capitol Police, okay, well, I guess that's where we draw the line. Oh, how brave of you. All Republicans have gone along with all of the lies up until now. You went along with the Clinton impeachment. You defended the Orange Menace on all of his anti-LGBTQ bigotry, masquerading as religious freedom, and it continues today. You're fine with gerrymandering. You're fine with McConnell's recent statement, 100% effort is to stop the Biden administration. You're fine with the voter suppression laws. You're fine with climate denial. You're fine with racism's denial. You're fine with all of it. All right, so there it is. That's what wound up on the cutting room floor yesterday because I went way over my time. I don't have the natural feel for this thing yet after being away for a while. So, yeah, the Republicans, they're just an illegitimate party. I don't know how else to say it. They're the nouveau fascists. Let's just work without them. Let's just literally shun them. The voters will figure this out. Just hoping that there are enough good, sane people in this country that they can see the facts for what they are and do something about it. And I know that's a tall order, especially when you consider, oh man, a couple of headlines today, or yesterday, I should say. Carbon dioxide levels hit 50% higher than pre-industrial time for the first time. I mentioned this particular headline because it's just one of many examples on how we're just doing everything wrong. And if I'm putting my hope into us as a collective making the right decisions, boy, I don't know if my hope is dashed yet, but it's damn close to dashed. Because we're just doing everything wrong at this point. We're just doing it all wrong. Carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere continue to go up year after year after year. Even though the Paris Climate Accord was, I don't know what, years and years ago now. all of these agreements, these goals that are stated, that are announced with great flourish and great optimism, and yet year after year we continue to increase CO2 levels rather than decrease or even level off. Vice President Kamala Harris was in Guatemala, and her main message there was, just don't come to America, please. We're just doing everything wrong. There's no real priority on this issue. There's no real plan that I can decipher. They talk with leaders of these countries who are suspect in themselves. The corruption still runs rampant in certain sectors. If there's a plan, tell me what it is. It's almost like the Republican health care plan. I don't see it. I don't see the Democratic immigration plan. If there is one, please tell me what it is. Here's a good one. AP reporting. Jails emptied in the pandemic. Should they stay that way? Hell yeah, they should. Empty the damn prisons. The great majority of offenders are non-violent drug offenders. Empty the damn prisons. If you'll recall, I am still an abolitionist. Abolish money, abolish the cops, abolish prisons. There are better ways to do this. We're literally doing everything wrong. And we talk a lot on this program about learning lessons from the pandemic. Are we going to learn this lesson? Jail populations were reduced because of the pandemic. We've learned we can do it. We've learned we can do remote school and work if we have to, when we have to. There's no reason in this world we can't make hybrid systems where there is some remote learning. I know it was tough on parents. I'm not asking anybody to go to full-time remote if you don't want to. But there is certainly room to build it into the system. Same thing for work. Another headline I saw, I don't have it here in front of me. A lot of people are quitting their jobs rather than coming back into the office. Their bosses are asking them to come back after a year working remotely. And many of them are saying, you know what? I don't think so. I don't want to come back. I'm going to find some other way to earn my daily bread. The way we shop and what we shop for and how much we buy, consume. There again, lessons learned. We all know by now, we talk about it all the time, how the billionaires, how the owner class, the capitalists, made money hand over fists, while stores and restaurants closed by the hundreds, by the thousands. The big guys didn't hurt. In fact, they bellied up to the bar and had their fill plus. The billionaires made trillions, and in order to fill that emptiness in our souls, because we were, I guess, bored from quarantine, we bought more things. So lessons learned, wrong lessons learned, I don't know. The whole thing with restaurants, you and I have talked about this. You know, if somebody wants to be a restaurateur, okay, fine. It's a legitimate way to make a living. I'm not going to discourage you, but you know, really, do we need coffee shops and donut shops and barbecue joints? And do we need them on every single corner of every single block? Do we need 10 and 20 in every neighborhood? This obsession we have with restaurants, with eating out, it became such a thing during the pandemic, and mostly with the attitude that, oh my God, we have to support our local restaurateurs. And again, I don't want to misrepresent my position here. Of course, I don't want anybody to lose their business. I don't want anybody to starve. But looking at it in a big picture, we just don't need to eat out 5, 6, 7 nights a week. Our priorities are so screwed up. And this cult of bars and restaurants, and I won't get back into the whole thing. You and I have spent some time talking about this in depth. I will just never understand how bars and restaurants became so damned important to people, to the culture. I mean, do we have to be literally fed and entertained 24/7? Do we have to keep buying things to fill this void in our souls? We're literally doing everything wrong. I also want to abolish borders. Abolish the borders, let everybody in. How is it written in God's law that some kid born in Guatemala doesn't have the same rights, the same opportunities, the same hope for a beautiful life than a kid who grows up in some affluent suburb of Chicago? I never understood that. I never will understand it. Abolish borders, abolish money, abolish all of it. Open up the borders, let them in. But Kamala Harris is down there saying, oh, don't come to America. Don't come to America. Nope. All you huddled masses yearning to breathe free, don't come to our teeming shore. Don't do it. We continue to buy, we continue to drive, we continue to consume, and CO2 levels leveling off, going down. Nope, climbing. Some governors actually had the good sense to release some of these nonviolent prisoners because of COVID, and now there's any question at all that we wouldn't continue that trend? Employers calling workers back to the offices just for what? So you can keep an eye on them? Do you really need to have that kind of a power trip in your life? Do you have to have that control? We're just doing everything wrong. Everything. We need to just flip over the Monopoly board and start over with a new game. We need to take the lessons of COVID. We need to listen to the climate scientists, epidemiologists. We have to listen to the experts, listen to the researchers, listen to the science, do the right thing. And then the sociological lessons we've learned over the last year about working from home, about schooling from home, if we can't incorporate some of that, I don't know what's wrong with us. The one thing that made me happy, just over the last several weeks here, it just tickled me to no end that a lot of workers refuse to come back for slave wages. I just love that. That whole so-called labor shortage, which I guess is still going on to some extent, but it was really getting the headlines a couple of weeks ago. And I just love the fact that people weren't just rushing back to these subsistent slave wage jobs. It's like, you want us back? Well, then pay us something. I'm not going to come and work for poverty wages. So that's a little good news. Employers are trying to... Some of them have actually raised their wages. Others are trying these little shell games. I think it was McDonald's they made a big deal about advertising $15 an hour. But there's a big old asterisk on that claim and a lot of fine print about how you have to work for a certain amount of time and it'll raise over that time, and you can't have 1 day of being late or absent, all these sort of conditions. We'll eventually get you to $15 an hour, except there's no way in hell anybody's going to meet these fine print conditions. So it's not really a real offer. It's just a little shell game we're playing. And then to get back to the politics of all this, the illegitimate fascist party, they call themselves Republicans. In order to get where we need to be, and let me just define that real quickly, a livable, inhabitable planet, we actually get a hold on the climate crisis and we reverse the trends. Okay, that's something we have to do. Is it easy? No. Is it absolutely necessary? Yes. Economically, people have to be able to live. If they're going to work, it's got to be a livable wage, not just a minimum wage, but a living wage. And I'll take it a step further because you know me. I think it's ridiculous to think that everybody in this country is expected to have a job. Everybody has something to do, and there are so many people to take care of. There are people with special needs. There are young kids. There are older folks. There's so much. The care economy is enormous. And we need lots and lots of people to do that sort of work. Right now, it's the most disrespected form of work you can do in this country. It's the lowest paid work you can do in this country, if indeed you're getting paid at all. So many caregivers aren't getting paid one thin dime by anybody. So the idea that everybody has to be producing or packaging or shipping widgets or flipping burgers, the idea that every single person of working age has to be working is just wrong. It's arcane thinking. Technology, artificial intelligence will take care of much of the work that needs to be done, and the most important work that needs to be done. Things like public safety, which needs to be reimagined, redefined. The whole abolish the police thing. Again, I'm an abolitionist. Abolish the damn police, start over from scratch, reinvent what public safety means. It's not that there are things that don't need doing. There are plenty of things that need doing. Would you please free us up and let us get down to doing it? We need public safety. We need education. We need health care. We need food grown and distributed, hopefully distributed locally. All food should be local. In fact, all physical products, with the very few exceptions, should be local. We're doing everything wrong. Absolutely everything. Transportation. We're putting all of our eggs into electric vehicles. You still think that everybody's going to have their own damn car? You still think this is a good idea? To not put more, so much more, 100%, 1,000%, 1,000,000% more emphasis on public transportation. We just need to pretty much look at everything we're doing, assume we're doing it wrong, and start over from scratch. And I interrupted myself. From the political perspective, if you think any of this is going to happen with the likes of Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, two Joes in a pod, these sort of do-nothing centrists, yeah, I know Joe's getting a lot of good press, and he was going to be bold, he's going to be FDR, but that's just a bunch of BS. And the very idea that any progress could be made with the Republican nouveau fascists holding so much power. Look at me with a straight face and tell me you think one iota of progress can be made with Mitch McConnell and the Republican fascists holding the power they have today, holding any power. We are about as far from our goal as we could be. And it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to look at when you have a long to-do list, sometimes you have a to-do list that just looks daunting. And you look at it, and instead of just picking one at random, or even picking the easiest one, or picking the hardest one, or picking the first one on the list, regardless, instead, you close your notes app, and you go make yourself a root beer float and sit down and watch an old Bonanza rerun. Because it's just too much. You got a whole long list of things that need to get done, and you can't bring yourself to do one of them because it all just looks like too much. And that's how I'm feeling about this country, about this world. We have to fix just about everything. I'll tell you what's working. I love local artists and musicians, local activists, local growers. I live, and I say this every day, and it's just my little, it's just a little line, right? River West, the greatest neighborhood in the world. And it's just a little throwaway quip. But you know what? It's not. It is. It's the greatest neighborhood in the world. We've got such beautiful people here. We have local growers, local gardeners. We have local activists. We have local artists and musicians. We have people doing it right. We have people just getting it right. On my beautiful community radio station, the flagship terrestrial station for this program, River West Radio, the most wonderful producers and hosts putting together the greatest programming in the world. If you don't have a community radio station in your town, start one. If you do, support them. It's the greatest thing. So I don't despair. There are beautiful, wonderful, creative people doing great things. But the large institutions and the great swath of red states and red voters, and even capital D Democrats who are just all about personal comfort, personal entertainment, and it's all wrapped up in consumption. It's all wrapped up in buying and selling. The hope that I get from my neighbors, from local folks getting it right, it sustains me. And yet, I can't help but be tempted with despair when I see the greater overall American culture, which is getting everything, and I mean everything, wrong. And then the mechanisms by which we can correct these problems, economically, politically, they are so embedded in a system, in a capitalist buy and sell system, that not only fails to meet these challenges, but literally creates the very challenges we face. I don't want to necessarily dismiss or discount the capital D Democrats. I mean, God bless the squad. God bless the Progressive Caucus. If they can have some success, Bernie, the squad, the growing Progressive Caucus, if I have to put my hope in anything, I'm giving you a shot. I'm giving you a chance. But the centrists of the world, the moderates, God forbid the Joe Manchins, the Joe Bidens, and the absolute arch enemy that needs to be destroyed forever, the modern Republican fascists. Oh, we have big challenges, you guys. We have such big challenges. And I guess if there's one thing on this to-do list that stands out as number one, we have to purge ourselves of our current day fascists, because they're going to put their foot on our neck every time we try to accomplish anything else on the list. From institutional racism to economic inequality to climate crisis to the immigration disaster, you name it. The modern American fascists will not only perpetuate these problems, but they will literally, physically stop anyone who tries to make progress in any of these areas, something that we all took for granted for years and years, our whole lives. I always took for granted that America progressed. People became more free. We would make advances over time. An assumption we just can't make anymore. We have to fight like hell to achieve the progress that once seemed inevitable. And now we have to fight back fascists, quite literally. I'm not making any kind of metaphor here. I'm not speaking in hyperbole. I'm speaking in very cold, precise language. The Republican Party is illegitimate. It's a fascist party, and they must be defeated. And of all the things on our to-do list, I'm afraid that's taken the number one spot. And it breaks my heart to say that, because I'd love to get up every day and work toward solutions to these issues. White supremacy, racism, climate crisis, income inequality, all of it. But in order to get there, we must exorcise this country of the fascist devil that wields enormous power. All right, whatever you can do in your little corner of the fight, please do it. Please do it and know that I'm right there with you. I love you. I'm Charles Bursell.